Have you ever seen someone with green eyes and complimented them on it? You're probably in awe because you do not see those colored eyes very often. That is because green eyes are a minority, making up only 2% of the population. This is why green eyes are a recessive trait. Today, I'll be teaching you about dominant and recessive traits and where they came from. Johann Mendel created genetics, and that dominant and recessive traits have their own unique characteristics. Before we get into dominant and recessive traits, where did they all start? Johann Mendel created the science known as genetics. As said in the book, A History of Genetics by A.H. Sturtevant, Mendel studied many different sciences, including paleontology, botany, chemistry, physics, mathematics, entomology, and zoology. He used his knowledge from those sciences to discover genetics by hybridizing garden pea plants. He recorded the differences in the characters of the two plants. According to Erich Schwarzbach, an author of the Czech journal, Mendel recognized multiple principles, including the discovery of genes and alleles. By experimenting, he came up with the dominant and recessive trait theories. Now that you know about the history of genetics, let's look into some characteristics of dominant traits. Dominant characters are the traits that mask the presence of other traits. In order for a child to be dominant, at least one parent has to have that trait or be fully dominant. As said in the book, Genetics for Dummies by Dr. Tara Robinson, dominant traits do not skip generations and can continue throughout a family if at least one person is fully dominant. Scott Goodman, the owner of the Medical Study Guide site, stated that some dominant trait diseases include achondroplasia, polydactyly, and Huntington's disease. Achondroplasia is a disease that affects people's height. Many people with this disease get called dwarfs. Polydactyly is a disease that makes people grow extra fingers and toes. Huntington's disease is a fatal disease that controls people's thinking ability, movements, and emotional problems. Now let's experiment. I want everyone to cross their arms. Don't think about it, just do it for muscle memory. You can try both ways to see which way is more natural. Whichever arm you can lift up is the one you want to focus on. If your right arm is over your left, then that is a dominant trait. If your left arm is over your right, then that is a recessive trait. But what exactly are recessive traits? Recessive traits are masked by dominant traits. Recessive traits are the least common traits to inherit because they are the hardest to receive. In order for a child to have a recessive trait, both parents have to be unaffected or be a recessive trait carrier. Dr. Tara Robinson, the author of the Medical Study Guide site, says that recessive traits can skip multiple generations or be present in only one. She also states that autosomal recessive traits are common throughout the offspring of parents that marry with common ancestry. The parents belong to the same religious or ethnic groups and marry within those groups. From the webpage Medical Study Guides, Scott Goodman says that some recessive trait diseases include cystic fibrosis and Fanconi anemia. Cystic fibrosis is a disease that clogs the lungs with a thick mucus. Fanconi anemia is a disease that decreases the production of blood cells. Surely you have knowledge on the history and studies of genetics. As we have learned, Gregor Mendel is a father of genetics and conducted experiments to figure out that dominant traits overrule recessive traits from various distinct characteristics. Anytime you notice someone's eye color, you notice the hand someone writes with, or you notice a disease someone has, just know that genetics is the science behind all of this.